Oh, how I would love to have rebuttal time. First, let me say that my level of displeasure began with Common Core years ago. One of the reasons why I am running for Wayne County Board of Education. Thank you for letting me speak today. My name is Jennifer Strickland, and I'm a mother of 4, a son in the 4th grade, identical twin boys in the 3rd grade, and a daughter in kindergarten. As a mother of 4, I know firsthand that children develop and learn at different rates. My oldest son hit all of his milestones on time. He's a dyslexic, he is successful in 4th grade, and miserably failed the EOGs. My twins, both of whom walked at nearly 19 months, are on the honor roll. The twin with straight A's received a possible retention letter because he is failing the mini tests that are being given constantly. My daughter, who is required to count to 100 within 60 seconds, as was asked at her 6-year checkup if she could count to 10, the developmentally appropriate skill for a 6-year-old. The Common Core curriculum is not developmentally appropriate. It demands too much at an early age, wastes time by requiring the teaching of irrelevant methods in the early and middle grades, and then accepts mediocrity at the end, which I guess is good, since children are so stressed out in the early years that they have nothing left to give in the latter. And I fear that the worst is yet to come. With the complete rollout of Common Core, we are going to see the damaging effects of having educators across the country trying to teach the same material on the same day, thus ignoring the fact that children learn at different rates. Our students will further become numbers and not individuals as more testing is implemented. Please listen to the teachers who spoke at the last meeting against Common Core. North Carolina unfortunately created the perfect storm with the implementation of the untested Common Core standards, DPI's interpretation of Read to Achieve, and change in career status. It is placing more pressure on our teachers and our students than can ever be considered healthy or productive. My children have become pawns in a terrible chess game between DPI and the legislatures. Please bring this to an end, starting with the elimination of Common Core.
Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, I'm honored to have the opportunity to join with others here to comment on the Common Core standards. My name is Cindy Farmer. I'm currently employed by Iredell Statesville Schools, but I've been a teacher in North Carolina since the late 1970s. As such, I've worked with many changes to the North Carolina schools curriculum. Over the last 3 years, I worked in 2 different school systems on teams helping teachers make the transition from the North Carolina Standard Course of Study to the Common Core State Standards. The adoption of the Common Core Standards is a change that I, along with many of my colleagues, support. For me, there are 2 things among many that stand out regarding the Common Core State Standards. The first is the care with which the standards in both language arts and math have been articulated through the progression of the grades. Studying how a standard which begins as being able to state, to dictate, to possibly draw an opinion in kindergarten that then weaves its way through the grades until the expectation is for a senior in high school to present an argument using tone and with regard to the audience and cite evidence and go out and research that evidence. To me, that's a beautiful and lovely thing. I'm also struck by the emphasis on not the mere recall of facts, but the ability to think through, to use those facts, to use that knowledge, and the ability to approach a problem in multiple ways and have the background to know why those facts are true. As the child of a military father, I attended 10 different schools in 5 different states. As I moved to a new school, I was always either behind or ahead. This was because there were no common standards. Nobody was teaching the same. What I'm seeing teachers do now is a 6th grade teacher in North Carolina can go out and find an excellent teacher in California and share what that teacher is doing so that they can design lessons and activities in their class that help their children to achieve a college and career readiness. Thank you.
I'm going to be making 4 points. Number 1, Elizabeth Berg. I'm going to be making 4 points. Number 1, Common Core, No Child Left Behind, Goals 2000, or outcome-based education. It is all the same. It's a federal government's takeover of education. For 30 years or more, we have failed and dumbed down our children. Solution, federal standards. No standards existed until around 1988. What do we know? Number 2, success of education for 80% of our children depends on first, second, and third grades. Reading, writing, spelling, math basics are here. Now this is where inappropriate government curriculum is being given to our most fragile children. Gone are phonics, writing skills, memorization, and early American history, except in wealthy communities. Instead, they were given calculators and computers. One of the worst ideas was to put 4-year-olds in kindergarten. It's been 50 years until 2 years ago, and 20% of our children are drugged. Any correlation? And we wonder why students graduate with such poor skills. It's not because they can't think. Number 3, we know the problems. Finland had the same problem. Government and education. Now they are number 1 in the world because they took our educational system that we had 60 years ago. First grade started at age 7. Yes, 7. That was us. Finland's teachers made their own curriculum and tests. That was us. No countrywide test until 16. That was us. We had abundance of good curriculum. We have an abundance of good curriculum, not Bill Gates' curriculum. Let our teachers choose. Number 4, we need to remember what used to be good. Our education was the best because our teachers have been educated not by the government rules or regulations, but by God, values, morals, and high expectations for each child. No child left the classroom. Dr. Atkinson, who is president of the CSSSO, who owns CC, do you have a conflict? Federal government stay out of North Carolina education. It's a constitutional law. I am a grandma, retired teacher, and principal, and I do wear lipstick. And we have a plan. Ask us.
Good morning. My name is Rick Hopkins. I am from Newbern. I am a father of 5 and a grandfather of 17. I am the chairman of Coastal Carolina Taxpayers Association. I am here today because there are a few issues that rise to the level of importance of the education of our children. I come also to bring a reminder from the citizens of this great state that you were elected not to a position of power, but to one of service. The cry of the people is being heard, not just here today, but in the many emails, phone calls, faxes, and letters that each of you have received and that elected officials and educators all across this country have received as well. The cry is loud and clear, and the evidence is overwhelming. Common Core is bad. History shows us that the value of a quality education, one that is based on unchanging natural laws coupled with a moral base of honor and respect that fosters a desire to achieve and excel. It was such a system of education that elevated this great nation above all others and made unprecedented advances in science, medicine, and technical achievements that provided a better quality of life for people the world over. It was that system that fostered the Industrial Revolution and produced those with the fortitude and character to lead this country to greatness and to fly and to walk on the moon. We haven't fixed something that was broken. We have broken something that was fixed. History also shows that since that moral base was removed in the 60s, a steady decline in SAT scores and the quality of education has been realized. At the same time, statistics for crime, sexually transmitted diseases, unwanted pregnancies, divorces, and single-parent families have skyrocketed. Hear the cry. Stop Common Core now. Return our schools to a system of education, not indoctrination or social engineering. Leave the sex education, religion, and political views of the children up to their parents and churches. May Almighty God lead, guide, direct you as you represent and serve the people of this great state.
My name is Vickie Griffin. I'm the mother of a 3rd grader. Common Core is not about better standards for our children, it's about money. The education of children in North Carolina has been manipulated by outside trade groups and bought by the federal government. In accepting Race to the Top grant money, North Carolina agreed to accept standards that are fundamentally flawed and which required North Carolina to build a database, the acronym of which is SLDS, Statewide Longitudinal Database System. In spring of 2011, the Department of Education amended the Family Educational Right Privacy Act, FERPA. That change substantially weakened privacy protection for the student by overriding HIPAA law. This allowed for more latitude for the data collection of the required Common Core databases. A month later, a lawsuit was filed by the Electronic Privacy Information Center, EPIC, over this. It is still unresolved, yet we are still marching forward collecting data. Students' information can be shared with third parties like technological companies or content providers. Companies will be making money from our children's personal information. Some of the information that could be collected on students, beside test scores, social security numbers, mother's maiden name, etc., are profiles of student attitudes and predictions of their futures that could be used by schools to shape outcomes. The Department of Education admits that students may be poked and prodded for information of a sensitive nature, such as political affiliations or beliefs of a student or parents, mental or psychological problems of a student or family, sexual behavior or attitudes, illegal, antisocial, self-incriminating, or demeaning behavior. Those are just a few. North Carolina's Department of Public Instruction still has not answered what the data sets are, who has access, where it is stored, and if our children's data is being sold to vendors or not. Excessive data collection on our children and teachers has to be stopped. North Carolina has sold our privacy and our children's privacy. North Carolina has sold our kids' education. North Carolina has to stop Common Core.
My name is Andrea Dillon. I'm a current homemaker in Wake County. I'd like to thank the committee for the opportunity to speak here today. I have a child in Wake County schools. My child does pretty well. My child's teacher, who does a fantastic job, by the way, wrote the following note to me about my son. What I've noticed lately is that when we've been working with persuasive writing prompts, he's having trouble coming up with opening sentences, 3 supporting sentences, and closing sentence, and that's been more difficult. The support is able to stay focused and on his topic, and include all parts of the persuasive letters, but independently, this is a struggle for him. Now, on to my son's recent math homework, which the directions stated. Attributes are characteristics that a shape has. Underneath each picture, write the attributes for the shape. Think about the number of sides, number of vertices, and other characteristics of the shape. So why are these disturbing to me? There's 7th and 8th grade vocabulary words in the math directions. Persuasive writing is a 4th to 5th grade skill set, sometimes introduced in 3rd grade. My son is in 1st grade, and he just turned 7 years old. Common Core's push standards meant for older children down into the grades of early learners. It's causing anxiety, confusion, and is a disaster for these kids. Supporters of Common Core are calling that rigor. That's not rigor. That is proof Common Core is a flawed experiment. Opposition to Common Core has been demonized as misguided or misinformed. It's not. And neither are 500 early education professionals who penned a letter protesting the standards that begin with this paragraph. We have grave concerns about the Common Core for young children. The proposed standards conflict with compelling new research in cognitive science, neuroscience, child development, and early childhood education about how young children learn, what they need to learn, and how best to teach them in kindergarten and the early grades. We're the ones witnessing this in the classroom with our children. We're here to tell you, Common Core has little regard for how little children learn. The burden of proof here is on Common Core and those committees outside North Carolina who created it, not on those of us who oppose this flawed experiment. Please, do the right thing. Stop Common Core in North Carolina. Don't replace it, don't rename it, don't mend it, end it. Thank you.